Welcome. I hope that you have taken care of installing and setting up the MySQL config editor and all the secure installation on node 2 and 3. I went ahead and did that, and I verified, like I have, this is the second node, I have 8040, and this is the third node. Now let's come to configuring the Galera cluster. And for configuring the Galera cluster, I use this approach, and you will find this approach in most of the production environments. Okay, I am not going to put everything in one file, but in a real life, in a real world production environment, you will see that what is the recommended way and productive way is that you separate the MySQL configuration with the Galera cluster configuration. And for that purpose, we will create a separate directory, conf.d. There we will have two separate files, one for MySQL server, another for Galera cluster. MySQL server file will have exactly what we have before, exactly the same thing. Okay, and the Galera cluster will have all the configuration, all the values that is required to set up the Galera cluster. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to do this on the first node. First of all, let's go ahead and stop the MySQL on all of them. Go ahead and do MySQL stop. Okay, and I will only work on node 1. This is our main. These are all primary, but I will just pick one because of the number 1. Go ahead and create a directory, a separate directory. We know that this will be our directory. We will have a full control. Everything related to Galera cluster will be under this directory. Okay, so then go ahead and whatever we have in our etc.conf file, go ahead and remove it and make a reference that you want to load all the options files, from this directory. Okay, this is the main thing. Go ahead and run that. So everything, all the option files will be coming from this folder. This way we will have full absolute control. So let's go ahead and did we create the folder? Yeah, we did create the folder. Go ahead and create two files in there. Okay, go ahead and create two files in there. Control C, Control V. You should see one is MySQL server, another is Galera cluster. This is clearly written. Even if you leave your job, you go to another company, the next DBA will come, it will see that, oh, it has pretty much aligned very neatly. This is everything related to MySQL. This is everything related to Galera cluster. Go ahead and let's make the entry in the MySQL server file, and this is exactly what we had before. I just copy paste from there. Control C, Control V, exactly the same, right? We didn't make any changes here. Let me, for the sake of this, it may be we have this user is MySQL. It's optional. You can remove it. By default, it will run as a MySQL. So if you want to make these, readable, you can have this if you like. You got the point. So let me go ahead and save that. Okay. Now go ahead and change the Galera cluster configuration file. Clear. Go ahead and make the entries, and these are the entries, and I will go through what really these are. Control V. So basically, for the Galera cluster, for the replication to work, the binary format should be row, and the default storage engine should be InnoDB. This is actually deprecated now in 8.4, but I just put it there because of in the documentation, but this will be row moving forward from version 4. InnoDB auto increment lock mode should be set to 2. The bind address should be all IP addresses, mean for this server from which IP address on which your internet this network card you should accept the connection. If you have multiple IP addresses on this one, we say 000 from all the IP addresses, and this is specifically for the plugin configuration. You want to have a WS rep on, and where is that provider that is providing this replication? the primary, the multi-master replication. Remember when I was showing you when we installed it, I said keep note of this location. This is the library that is really under the hood doing all this heavy work. What should be the name of this Galera cluster? I just name it G cluster. You can make it whatever you like. Okay, so what will be the cluster address? This cluster address will be spanning all the member nodes of this, but since this is our first node, the starter node, for now I make it only empty because right now there is no other member other than this local member. Okay, if we will populate this, then it will try to connect to the other members. What will be the method how the data will move from one primary to the other? So Galera cluster is using the generic rsync utility. Rsync utility you will find in almost all the Linux distribution. Okay, this is freely available rsync, and we use this rsync utility when we want to do the from local to the remote. We want to upgrade servers, we do the rsync, and then we upgrade from one version to the other. This rsync is very versatile utility. What is the address of this local node? Let me actually see right and quick. What is the address? Address is, you please put your private address there, right? So let me do copy here, copy. Let me go back here, and this is very important. You want to have correct private IP address because this communication is going to happen among the nodes, and you want to have a private IP address, is not the public. Okay, and what should be the name of this node? I will call this Galera cluster node 1 dot g cluster dot local. Okay, you understood all this. Let's go ahead and save it and go ahead and try to attempt to start it. Now this will not be a standard MySQL start, it will be bootstrapping a new, this will be considered as a new cluster. Okay, in order to start, in order to create a new cluster where all these components are installed, you use MySQL D at bootstrap service only on the first node. You don't do all the other nodes. Okay, only on the primary that you want to make first node of the cluster. All of them are primary, but you only want to start as a bootstrap on the first one. So the Galera will feel like this is the first node of a new cluster. I hope that I have typed everything correctly in front of you, and seems like, knock on wood, everything seems like okay. And let's go ahead and try to do the setup. The status of this one, it says that just 12 seconds ago it started, and as you can see that it says that starting MySQL server plus the next one, it says that the right set replication, the recovered position is right now 000, and it says that the MySQL server has been started. Okay, and then what else needs to be done? Now go ahead and start the MySQL. Add exactly what we did there. Instead of using this, go ahead and only start with this one, but for that one we need to add this one. If you can do is okay, but I guess let me go ahead and do try to do in the second node, and then I will leave it for you and the Bob for the third node, and for that I will see you in the next lesson.